If you have a parliamentary system in this context, it is going to be abused with impunity, just like the presidential system has been abused.
A paper presented on areas necessary for constitutional reforms by Dan Wandera Ogalo, an advocate and also a former member of parliament, ignited the pushback by Rubongoya. Ogalo's research findings suggested the need to revert to a parliamentary system of governance where MPs would elect the president.
There is less risk of authoritarianism. The president knows that his power emanates from parliament. So he has to listen to the representatives of the people. And therefore he will be less authoritarian. As we say under the president, the president says, I have my mandate from people. They also voted for me. Who are you, parliament?
Ogalo suggested the need to effect the constitutional provisions for a devolved system as provided by Article 176 of the Constitution, which also provides for cooperation among districts. Arguments in support of the regional government is premised on fair distribution of resources largely controlled by the center.
There is a problem with decentralization. And historically, it shows that our biggest problem has been this concentration of power, like the parliament says, at the center. People come to Kampala and they want to own everything. They want to do everything.
I would say that our system of decentralization has failed. The only thing we have achieved is to create jobs, political jobs at local level. And as we start off for revamping, we have to get worried about those jobs we have created.
Professor Sempebwa argued against the proposed parliamentary system, saying it is the way Milton Obote returned to power in 1980 after he had been overthrown in a coup d'etat by Idi Amin.
The government falls if that is achieved by a vote of no confidence, and you go back to an election. You have to have the capacity to handle that shock. It's not something we think we can manage. I'm not sure we can manage those shocks.
Sempebwa argues for the presidential system, explaining that it only needs a few readjustments, though he is critical about the fusion between the executive and legislature, from which the executive appoints ministers.
Can we see a parliament that will be free from manipulation, where the members of the executive are separate from the parliamentarians? And yes, Professor Sempebwa did allude to it, that people keep waiting to eat. There will always remain a space in the cabinet that they will keep tossing around to say, you are the next one to take it, you are the next one to take it. And it keeps people at bay.
Civic education campaign. Who's doing it? Who's responsible? We at the center have been trying to look at, for example, the youth. And no one is talking about them. The last elections, the youth constituted 41% of the electorate. That is 18 million people.
I've heard Professor Mwanga asking where the youth are. Professor, the youth were abducted. They were in cells. They were in safe houses. Some of them are still missing. Those who tried to sound out voices to participate in the last election, many of them were killed on the streets of Kampala.
I cannot say that we are where we want to be, but I can comfortably say that we are not where we were. And every election cycle that we have gone through has brought improvements to our electoral systems.
The Supreme Court, in its ruling on the 2016 presidential petition, recommended several amendments which were either not implemented by the government or were brought at the 11th hour as the country headed to the 2021 elections, which resulted in minor reforms.
Though there is desire for constitutional and electoral reforms among the political players, especially from the opposition, academicians caution that they should not expect a government which in the first place did not come through a democratic process to drive the conversation. Their point strengthened by the fact that recently those in the system have indicated that the government does not have the money to drive the process. Jackson Onyango, NTV.